Why are we seeing more and more diagnoses of PMDD, PCOS, endometriosis? Why? Why all of a sudden is this like such a big thing? You live in this like toxic soup and there's lots of parabens and phthalates and these endocrine disruptors. We see women with PMDD, OCD, anxiety, irritability, trouble sleeping, insomnia that really high estrogen levels cause because our progesterone is also now relatively low and it's just getting squashed to death. And I really started trying to attempt to treat females with PMDD or premenstrual dysphoric disorder, women with PCOS, women with endometriosis. You know, from a conventional lens, I'm looking at these different diseases and they're radically different from each other from a conventional point of view. They, have very interesting therapies. So for example, PMDD, the gold standard is still technically speaking SSRIs, which again, didn't make any sense to me. I'm thinking about this through a perspective of, okay, so this young lady or whatever, she's cycling regularly or irregularly, but no matter when she does cycle, she experiences, especially during her, getting into the luteal phase, this rapid change in her mental health. And to me, I think, well, that screams hormones, right? I mean, like, isn't that what's creating that shift anyways? And if you think about PMDD, it seems a lot like PMS, but on steroids, right? It's like this, unbelievable, like take PMS and just make it 1,000 times worse, to the point at which some of these women, experience like a level of, suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation, almost psychosis-like levels of disturbance is so heartbreaking. And I kind of got confronted by these women who were suffering from this disease because I was working in a functional medicine capacity, but in a mental health setting, so to speak. And these women were tired. They were tired of going to their primary care, to their psychiatrist, and just getting the same old workaround of like, well, yeah, it sounds like PMDD. Here's your antidepressant. If that doesn't help, some of these poor women, it got so far as to, again, like if it's really bad, having a total hysterectomy. Just remove the ovaries, just stop the cycles entirely. If not that, from a chemical standpoint, they would be given, basically, I'm blanking on the words, medications that would disrupt completely, GnRH antagonists, right? They would totally disrupt the ability for that woman to have any amount of hormone production at all, right? I mean, they're chemical castrators. That's what they are. They're literally chemical castrators. And by the way, again, I'm not disparaging anybody who is on those or has been prescribed them, or if you have prescribed those to people, like that's what the conventional world tells us to do. So I'm not blaming you guys at all, but it just seems so crazy to me. I just thought that seems like the last thing I would ever want to do to a poor female. Absolutely. I mean, I don't even know if that would ever come into the universe of like, this seems like an appropriate therapy. I mean, I couldn't imagine, what is essentially, neutering a human being without trying something else first, and something else that actually made sense logically. An SSRI, why am I giving an SSRI? Now, I'm not saying they can't improve some of the symptoms, okay? I'm not saying that. But there's a big difference between improving symptoms and getting to the root cause, and potentially also improving symptoms because you got to the root cause. And a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor doesn't make any sense if, in fact, PMDD is hormonally driven. And so I remember literally the first PMDD patient I ever had, and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm not an OB-GYN, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm a family med guy. I'm looking at mental health through a functional medicine lens, and my promise to patients was, hey, I'm not an expert in any of these things. I'm not your mental health expert. I'm not your OB-GYN or any of that, but what I am is a functional medicine guy, and what I can help you hopefully do is find some sort of adjunctive way to help you feel better. by attempting to get to the root cause. And I remember that first PMDD patient. I didn't really know that much about PMDD. Seriously. I mean, I vaguely remember touching on it, in my F&P studies in grad school. And so it was a really interesting case. She was such a lovely person, lovely, absolutely lovely. We were about the same age at the time, so late 20s, mid to late 20s. And she was just having a heck of a time. She had just gotten married. She really wanted to have kids. That was primarily why she was being seen. She had no idea she had PMDD, for the longest time, right? She just always thought it was just this miserable cycle that she had, and she would have these depressive episodes and crushing amounts of anxiety, especially. And it just kept getting worse. And when she saw me, it was so bad that she started having, it wasn't homicidal ideation, but she would get really irritated with her poor husband. And she loved this guy. She really loved this guy, and he loved her a lot. I would see them oftentimes together. In fact, the first consultation, they were both together. They were just the sweetest couple. And it was heartbreaking because he would tell you that's not her. That's not who she is. But there's this, almost week-long period of time, sometimes even longer, where I can't be around her. I'm scared to be around her. She's scared to be around me, kind of thing. And wow, can you imagine your first, few months or year of marriage, you're dealing with that. And of course you want to have kids, and, she's saying she can't because God forbid, what if she did something to that? I mean, it was just really heartbreaking. So I remember telling her, look, gal, I'm going to try my best. I don't know what I can promise you here, but this is going to be my new passion project for the next several months. And I'm going to try my best to figure this out. And so I did what I do best, which is, let me read. Let me just dig into the literature. For those of you who don't know, I freaking am a dork. I love reading. I love reading really boring stuff a lot of the times. So I dig into the literature, and what was startling right off the bat was actually how much literature was surrounding PMDD and hormonal fluctuations, and also these questions that researchers kept stating but never seeming to delve into, which was, this is hormonally driven. We just can't seem to figure out which hormone or why. And we tried progesterone in a couple studies and it didn't seem to work, so we kind of moved on. So I'm looking through these studies, and I'm trying to piece together exactly, what did you guys do? What did you give these women? What type of hormones? Oftentimes they're using birth control, which I'm like, okay, that's not hormones. Real quick, let me go on a rant. Progestin and ethinyl estradiol or conjugated equine estrogen, those are not hormones. They're not. We need to reclassify these things. When I say HRT, I'm not making an umbrella here. HRT is hormone replacement therapy, not hormone-like replacement therapy. Progestins, like medroxyprogesterone acetate, conjugated equine estrogen, they're not real hormones, guys. They're Franken-hormones. They're not bioidentical. They're synthetic, but that's not the problem. So are bioidenticals. Bioidenticals are synthetic. The problem is that they do not look exactly like our hormones, nor do they act exactly the same as our hormones. I mean, progestins, frankly, they don't look anything like progesterone. If you ever look at a picture of them, wildly different results. So that doesn't count. So I'm looking through these studies. I'm like, okay, these don't count. These do count. There are just a very small handful of studies that actually looked at bioidentical progesterones. When I say progesterone, I mean P4, bioidentical progesterone. And those studies were very it doesn't seem to help that much. And I'm looking at the dosing, and I'm thinking, okay, well, it didn't seem to help that much in all of the patients. It seemed to help in some of the patients. And I'm looking at some of these dosings, and I'm like, okay, 100 milligrams of oral progesterone? What about 200 milligrams? That's not a weird dose. Even in conventional settings, we'll see 200 milligrams tossed around every now and then. That's more common in my universe. And we teach that in HRT University. So I said, okay, what if we just start with bigger doses of progesterone? Because again, when I'm thinking about hormones, now this is the really helpful part. These are the principles of hormones. When we get down to the nitty-gritty of what do each one of our hormones do? How do they act? How do they behave? When we think about estrogen, and I'm talking about estrogen as actually an umbrella here, okay? The estrogen that we produce as men and women, estrogen is, generally speaking, very stimulating. It's very exciting to the human body. It's proliferative. It's a very primordial. I mean, I really think of estrogen as a primordial hormone that allowed us as human beings to flourish in many ways. And mammals in general, estrogen is what says, grow, baby, grow. It's what allows us to, shed a uterus and regrow it over and over and over again as females. It's what stimulates our brains. It's what drives a lot of our libido is tied up with estrogen, right? It's very like, wow, it's exciting and stimulatory. If you have too much estrogen, think of it like a cup of coffee. I love to make these comparisons. I actually make this comparison in the course, the master course. Estrogen is 1 cup of coffee, right? A little bit of estrogen, man, what a great day you're about to have. Like, it warms you up. It's got a little bit of that caffeine. It kicks your cognitive system in gear, helps you feel awake and alert, maybe even a little bit antsy in a good way, helps you be productive, right? Now, if you're sensitive to caffeine, especially, or if you've ever had just way too much caffeine, let's say you drink 5 cups of coffee in like an hour. That feeling where you're like, I don't know why, but I feel anxious and nervous, is because you had way too much coffee. And now it's it's not a positive return. It's now kind of a net negative return where now you really got to poop and you feel anxious. Okay. So, estrogen in many ways is kind of like that. If you have too much estrogen, which again, you'll hear phrases like estrogen dominance. Yeah, it's just too much estrogen. And what does that do? It makes you feel kind of crappy, excited, irritable, anxious, which will also produce quite irrational thoughts. It can drive at that point more inflammation, which is again a really interesting thing about estrogen. Estrogen in general, when it's balanced, so to speak, when it's in an optimal range in a healthy human being, it has very potent anti-inflammatory, antioxidative capacities, right? It actually helps us heal and rejuvenate and do all the wonderful things that we do as human beings. When it's out of control, it proliferates, it grows stuff, fibroids, tumors, God forbid it then creates cancers. Okay, so estrogen is not the devil incarnate. It's not. I know I'm going to make it sound that way, but it's really not. It's a wonderful hormone. I love estradiol and estrogen. It's amazing. But here's the real kicker. Why are we seeing more and more diagnoses of PMDD, PCOS, endometriosis? Why? Why all of a sudden is this like such a big thing? Even 20 years ago, I don't remember growing up, or even as I got into nursing school, like I do not remember PCOS and PMDD and endometriosis being even as significant as it is today, like 10, 15 years ago, or 15 years later, rather. I don't remember it, and maybe I'm wrong, but even when I'm looking at the literature and when I'm talking to my peers and colleagues, it just seems more and more and more pervasive. And of course, look, don't get me wrong. I'm sure we're getting better at diagnosing these things and recognizing these things. But let's be honest, it's tremendously changed since, when you look back in the literature, like it's practically unheard of in the 1960s. And by the way, my grandfather grew up then, and that guy was sharp as a tack. Those guys were not missing things. They really weren't. Ray Peat was talking about those things back then. So it existed. It just wasn't at the severity that it is today. And it is because our modern world is shifting so dramatically. I talk all the time about we live in this toxic soup, and there's lots of parabens and phthalates and these endocrine disruptors and everything on our clothes and in our furniture and in our shampoos and conditioners. They're in our foods, in our water. And they have massively disrupted the way we as human beings behave and develop. Men, what are we seeing? Low testosterone levels, high in relative relationship, higher like estrogen levels. What are we seeing with women? What happens if you take a woman's estrogen and you just skyrocket it to the moon? They're already making a lot of estrogen. That's what women do. When they're young, women make a ton of estrogen. They're supposed to be estrogen making machines. Now add on top of that, so you think about, okay, woman makes this much estrogen, every day or around these times of the cycle. Now double that, right? We have this cumulative effect because of the environmental factors, the endocrine disrupting xenoestrogens, which the body, more or less confuses as real estrogens. And so now our poor female patients have a relatively higher estrogen level. And by the way, this won't show up on blood work unless you're like testing for, xenoestrogen somehow. And it's not like we have some gold standard of measuring that with your estrogen. But what you need to know is that is what we see presenting to us. We see women with PMDD, OCD, anxiety, irritability, trouble sleeping, insomnia, right? They're having those horrible mental anguishing types of effects that really, really, really high estrogen levels cause, because our progesterone is also now relatively low and it's just getting squashed to death. Our thyroids are starting to become affected because these estrogens start affecting the way our liver processes things, right? Our liver's supposed to help detoxify a lot of this stuff, and it's becoming overwhelmed. And so it gets kind of sluggish. And our thyroid's supposed to be trying to help our liver function, but it can't because our progesterone's low, which our progesterone has a really nice relationship with thyroid and vice versa. And then what happens to our cycles if you're a female? Do you see what I'm getting with this? It's just one thing after another. And it creates this vicious cycle. That is where we're at today in our modern world. And that was it was really it was eye-opening because I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm the first person to figure this out. I totally wasn't, because when I was looking for answers, I found Dr. Ray Peat, who was just an absolute breath of fresh air for me, because I actually had someone who was way smarter than me who was talking about this a long time ago, and he had figured out the solutions, really elegant solutions, right? Not just like, well, let's just like nuke this lady with a bunch of, castrating chemicals so that she doesn't feel anything anymore. He was saying the problem is low progesterone and low thyroid. There are things that we can do from a dietary prescription, so to speak, that we can improve upon those things. Making sure you poop every day, at least once a day. Genius. Now we're not carrying a bunch of estrogens in our belly all the time that are just getting recirculated. We're lowering our endotoxin levels, those nasty byproducts of bacteria that are being caused because our gut's kind of slow, because our thyroid stinks. I mean, he just had all these amazing answers. But he was not shy about the use of hormone replacement therapy. He was the first person that I really felt like almost gave me permission to pursue hormone replacement therapy to the nth degree, because he didn't see hormone replacement therapy as fringe. He saw it as foundational. He saw it as something that truly moved the needle, and it was functional. It was root cause. Thank you so much for checking out this clip and tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. If you really liked it, I definitely recommend that you click here to watch the whole entire video where I go into much more detail. Thank you again for joining, and I'll see you there.